The U.S. has always been praised for its quality higher education, and it is where so many international students want to come and study. What do you believe is at the core of Trump's battle? Is it DEI? Is it anti-Semitism? Or is it a way for Trump to flex his muscles?
I think it's actually a structured campaign against expertise and knowledge. And that's what you're seeing, I think, on so many levels of the federal government at this point. And going after Harvard kind of as the global representation of the American education system, of the belief in academic freedom, of the belief in education, in knowledge, and really checking each other in terms of scientific experience, I think is really the example of that. Taking down Harvard would be an exemplary, well, it would be exemplary in terms of federal power, and it would be unprecedented going for a federal government to go after a private institution or a public higher education institution, for that matter, in the United States.
Yeah, I think we could say that we are in uncharted territory right now. And to keep on the topic of Harvard, the battle with that university, revoking its federal funding a week ago. The U.S. courts ordered the Trump administration to restore $2.2 billion in funding. I saw some stories that indicate the administration is in the initial phase of beginning to work out that court order. So where does it stand, and how important is this fight for the freedom of higher education?
Well, it's essential for Harvard. There's a lot of money even for Harvard. And I think we have to keep in mind that despite all the talk about Harvard's endowment, it can only access a small fraction of this endowment on an annual basis. And so it really lives on steady income. And the core part of Harvard's educational vision is scientific research. And the federal government has been funding that for decades. And so really going after Harvard, after the funding that Harvard receives to make all of our lives in the United States and globally better, is really an unprecedented attack, and an attack on Harvard's, I don't want to go so far as to say its viability, but certainly its size and its aspirations as a global educational power.
Harvard is just one of dozens. Now, some institutions of higher education are giving in to Trump, and many more are fighting back. I again ask you, what's at stake in all of this?
I think it's the power of American higher education, it's academic freedom, and it's also expertise and knowledge. The whole point of a university campus, of a research university, is to test scientific knowledge. And that's the place where we need to do it, and that's the place where I think the American public has a right to expect it to happen. And taking all this funding away really takes the ability of Harvard and other research institutions to do this research and engage in that testing of ideas so that we're all well served in the end.
Yeah, using his executive orders, Trump has really gone after a number of entities in a very broad way. The administration now targeting grants and funds designed to assist colleges that have a high percentage of minority students. It has become a familiar refrain from Trump and his inner circle. They argue that it is illegal discrimination because it's tied to racial quotas. Your thoughts on this kind of rhetoric and what it does, and how does it handicap students who really need to have some kind of access to higher education that they would not be able to afford otherwise?
Your question points exactly to the problem. This isn't a racial quota. So just to be clear about this was extra funding earmarked for institutions that have more than 25% Hispanic students. So these weren't schools that put in quotas. These are often schools in part of the country that have just a high population of Hispanics who are accessing higher education. California state system is one example of those institutions. And so what these institutions use this money largely for is to support access, to support social mobility, to support retention and graduation rates for all of their students. And it lifts all boats. And so this argument that this is racial preference, that's so not how this plays out on the ground. It's really extra support for institutions whose students need that extra support. And an easy way to measure it was to do this by looking at populations of Hispanic students and some other minority, this will really hit hard institutions also that serve African Americans, that serve a larger number of Asian Americans, and also Native Americans.
And with that in mind, if you're a brilliant student in, say, Brazil or China or India, why would you want to come to the United States right now? I think one could make the argument that they would be entering a very hostile environment.
I think not on university campuses, fortunately. I think universities absolutely cherish and appreciate all of their students and their international students, and have really been trying to work with international students to assure that their visas get issued, to make sure that they can stay in the United States if that was better and preferable, or can leave the country. So I think, however, having said all of this, undoubtedly, I think it makes young people and their parents nervous around the world coming to the United States. There's so many stories about problems at entry, delays in visas. All of that, I think, will make people wary. And it gives an opportunity for countries like the UK, Australia, Canada, and many other global competitors to say, why don't you come to us? We also have world-class universities, and we'll make this easier for you. So I think we'll see an interesting competition, but the United States is the largest market for international students, and certainly the universities depend on them and are proud of them. And it's been such a force for good, really, in the world, and one of these soft diplomatic powers that the United States historically has spoken about.
Yeah. Nora Demleitner, I can't thank you enough for your insight. I think it's spot on, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.